Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and you're watching Toasted.
Welcome to Amsterdam.
Thank you very much.
The rumors were you were spotted in a coffee shop, actually. Intensely using the Wi-Fi.
Yes, I love the Wi-Fi here. It's excellent.
It's legal, too.
Not even password protected.
No, there you go. Hey, but anyway, what brings you on tour again?
This is actually the first time that I've played Amsterdam and first time I've played Europe. It's been a long time coming. I've been hoping to play here for about 30 years. So I'm very excited that finally we were able to logistically figure it out and make it happen.
So why took it 30 years to come over? Because, I mean, you had big successes starting in the 80s. I mean, there was a lot of reason probably for you to come over.
Well, I was never big enough apparently. So we've tried. All I can tell you is we've really tried to make it happen, and we needed to line up a certain amount of European days before I wouldn't be losing a large amount of money. So I think maybe because of my exposure on the internet over the last decade or so, YouTube, I've gotten a lot of hits, and I think I've built up more of an international fan base that way. And I think it's finally gotten to the point just this year where the promoters figured, like, yeah, we'll give this Yankovic guy a chance.
And it doesn't stop here, right? You're just playing UK and Amsterdam now. You go back to the States, and then you're going to Australia and New Zealand?
That's right. So we're looking at this sort of like our foot in the door. We're hoping that once people see the show and kind of get what this is all about, they'll go, oh, yeah, well, maybe we'll invite them back. So hopefully next time it'll be a little bit longer of a tour.
Yeah, I was looking into some statistics, and you sold over 12 million records.
Something like that, yeah. Still waiting for the check.
What did you do wrong, or what did you do well?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, really, that's like amazing, right? Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah, people aren't selling too many albums these days. But back when they were buying record albums, I was doing okay. I think I'm still the highest selling comedy artist in history, from what I'm told, which is kind of mind-boggling. I never thought that would happen.
And what makes you so successful? I mean, of course, your covers are brilliant and funny, and it makes you think, how do you pick an act and how do you pick an artist that suits you?
Well, there's no real, parameter set in stone. It's sort of like whatever appeals to me. I try to pick songs, obviously, that are very popular and have a wide mainstream appeal. But it really boils down to me trying to come up with a clever idea and something that amuses me, and then I hope that'll amuse a lot of other people too.
And the story goes that you actually talk to the artists themselves before you make a cover version, right?
I do now, and legally that I don't necessarily have to do that. I always say that that's sort of a gray area. But it's just always been a personal policy of mine because, I don't like to step on people's toes. I don't want them to feel like I'm, really making fun of them or denigrating their work. So if they're not into it, I'll back off. But more often than not, artists are thrilled to have me do the parody because these days it's sort of like a rite of passage. It's a sign that you've achieved a certain level of success, when you get your Weird Al parody.
Hey, and did you actually call Kurt Cobain as well?
I did, yeah. My manager was trying to contact his manager and get it done that way, and he wasn't getting phone calls returned. So he said, Al, if you want this Nirvana parody, it's all on you. So I was like, yeah. And it just so happened that Nirvana was playing Saturday Night Live for the first time that week, and a friend of mine was in the cast of Saturday Night Live. So I said, hey, if you get Kurt Cobain and alone in a room, put him on the phone because I need to talk to him. And she did, and I talked to Kurt, and I said, hey, Kurt, I was Weird Al Yankovic, and I would love to do a parody of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And Kurt was like, oh, okay, well, is it going to be a song about food? I said, no, it's going to be a song about how nobody can understand your lyrics. And he was like, oh, well, okay, sounds fun.
And Dave Grohl said, like, when you called them, they talked about it, and they went like, you know what? Weird Al is going to cover our version, so we really made it now.
Yeah, that was like, that's my favorite quote of all time. Like, Kurt Cobain was like, I didn't realize that I had made it until Weird Al did the parody.
And did you also talk to Michael Jackson? Because, I mean, you of course, your big break was Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him initially, but I did run into him a few times after the fact. And he was very supportive, had a great sense of humor, loved the parodies. In fact, when we did the Fat video, that was Michael Jackson's Subway set that we used. He was nice enough to lend it to us, so he was great.
Brilliant. So his passing away was, of course, a shock to you as well.
Of course, well, to everybody in the whole world. But yeah, I mean, it was, he was a huge help to me starting out. And if it hadn't been for Michael Jackson's early support, I don't know if I'd still be hanging around because, I mean, that, Eat It and Fat were what really kind of brought me to, international prominence. So without that, I might have just already faded away.
There aren't too many people that can say Michael Jackson actually was a fan of theirs, right?
Well, yeah, it's a pretty heady thing to think about.
Hey, another big name dropping thing. Of course, it's 30 years ago today since John Lennon died. I found this old interview that the Beastie Boys did with you.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Wow, yeah.
And they set you up because they called Yoko Ono to walk into you.
That was a wild interview. Yeah, they asked me. I was thinking about doing some kind of Beatles parody because I think they just did "Free as a Bird," and I think Yoko was not really into me doing a parody of that, and for whatever reason, which is fine. But while I was talking about it, they arranged for Yoko to just walk by me. That really messed with my head.
Hey, but in this interview, which is hilarious, of course,
Yeah.
it's 90% nonsense, but there's some good stuff in there as well. Of course, you're known for your popular covers, but you do like a lot of alternative music yourself, right? I mean, Liz Phair was big then, R.E.M.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of pastiches. I do a lot of original songs, but in the style of other artists. And I tend to do a lot of sort of alternative music and things like that, just because that's my own personal taste. So I'll sometimes even do. They're not really parodies, but I'll do style parodies of bands that maybe even some people aren't that familiar with, but they're just personal favorites of mine. And I just, it's a fun exercise for me to kind of, step into another artist's shoes and write something as they would, except maybe a little bit more demented or sick and twisted.
One thing that I liked about delving into your history a little is one quote of your late dad that says, "The key to success is doing what makes you happy."
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was, in fact, that's what my dad always told me, and that was one of the nicest things he ever did for me because he really,
So he gave you an accordion.
well, yeah, that kind of counterbalanced it. Now I forgive him. But no, that was really a great thing to be able to tell me because, I mean, it was a little hard to give up the notion of being an architect because that was what I was trained for. I had my degree in that, and I just realized that wasn't my passion. And to be able to have the permission to follow my dream and to give the whole music industry thing a shot. I mean, it just seemed so unrealistic. But I figured, I love comedy, I love music. I would really have a lot of regret in my life if I didn't at least try. And thankfully, it all worked out. I kind of really don't know what I'd be doing right now if it hadn't, but it was nice that my parents were supportive and they allowed me to just follow my muse.
You appeared on The Simpsons twice, which is rare, right? Nobody ever does that. I mean, it must be weird to see yourself being a Simpson.
Yeah, to see myself that yellow, yeah. No, it's really great for me because, I mean, it's really possibly the high point of my life being on The Simpsons because to me that's immortality. Because, I mean, The Simpsons, what season are they in? Like 21, 22, and no sign of stopping. And by all accounts, that show will be in syndication forever. I mean, as long as there's civilization, I think there'll be a TV channel somewhere playing The Simpsons. So even after people have long forgotten my music and everything else about me, I kind of feel like I'm still going to be on The Simpsons.
Do you like Family Guy as well?
I do, yeah. I like all those shows. They're really fun.
Hey, do you actually know any Dutch music?
I can't say that I do. I'm sorry.
That says enough about us, actually. Hey, you mentioned YouTube, and it meant a lot to your success for the last 10 years. There's also some stuff on it that you don't like. If people try to find your music, there's a lot of hoaxes and cover bands that you're not necessarily involved with. What do you think of bands like Lounge Against the Machine and Richard Cheese?
Oh, I like Richard Cheese. He's an old friend of mine, Mark Davis. So I've known him for years and years and years. So yeah, that's very cool. I like his act a lot. In fact, I think I did a little cameo in one of his albums once. He had me call in on his phone, and it was like an answering machine message. So he incorporated that clip onto one of his songs. Yeah.
I saw the trailer of your live on Funny or Die. That stuff is fantastic, but it's only like 5 minutes. That's it, right? There is not actually a movie. It's just a tease.
No, some people. I mean, it's so well put together that some people thought, "Wow, this is really a movie that's coming out," and it's not. But it was a very well put together trailer.
You dating Madonna? Is that like?
Well, yeah, like my dark spiral, my sordid affair with Madonna. Yeah, that never really happened, I'm afraid. But no, it was a fun trailer, and it was great to. I mean, Patton Oswalt and Gary Cole and Aaron Paul and Mary Steenburgen, and it was just an amazing cast, and I was just thrilled that they were able to put that together.
And there's another legend about you that actually your Like a Surgeon song was inspired by Madonna because Madonna came up with the title herself. Is that true?
Well, as legend has it, that is actually true. Yeah. From what I'm told, Madonna was talking to a friend of hers in New York, and she just offhandedly mentioned, "Oh, I wonder when Weird Al's going to do Like a Surgeon." And her friend actually knew a friend of my manager and got back to me, and I thought, not a bad idea. Okay.
Hey, and another song of yours, Craigslist. I just saw that on the web. Very much Doors, but there's actually a Door member playing on the song. He's playing piano. It's Raymond Zarek?
That's right. Yeah, that's how we got that really accurate Doors sound. We got the guy from the Doors.
How did that wind up? I mean,
well, part of my mantra is it never hurts to ask. So I was all set to have my keyboard player play the part, and I thought, maybe Ray would like to play. So I contacted Ray Manzarek, and he said, okay. And I drove up the coast of California to where he lived, and we found a local studio, which was actually owned by Jerry Harrison of Talking Heads, which was pretty cool because I got to hang out with Jerry Harrison for the day as well. And it was a kind of a mind-blowing day for me because between Jerry and hanging out with Ray Manzarek, it was just pretty amazing. And Ray knocked it out, and I went back to LA and mixed it in, and he's on the track forever now.
Looking back at your career, it's like you met everyone who ever did something important in music history. Come on, it's fair, right? Isn't that weird? I mean, you never expected. You dropped your career being an architect. Well, maybe you can pick up on that after 20 years. But you dropped on that, you started a music career, and you did all this fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, considering my humble origins, I mean, literally recording in a bathroom with my accordion, and now I'm doing sessions with some of the biggest names in rock and roll. It's just, yeah, I still, every morning I wake up and I still can't believe I get to do this for a living.
What was the best or the most impressive meeting you ever had?
Oh, that's really hard to say. I'm still, I mean, it's hard to pick one. Maybe Paul McCartney. I met him on two occasions. I met him once in 1984 when I was just starting to get known, and I went to one of his parties. He did a release party for his movie Give My Regards to Broad Street, which came out at the time. And I kind of weaseled my way backstage and just wanted to get up to Paul. And his publicist was like, no, leave Paul alone. He's very busy. He's doing interviews. But I kept getting closer and closer. And I finally was close enough, and Paul noticed me. And he was like, oh, it's Weird Al. Look, honey. It's talking to Delinda. Look, honey, it's Weird Al. And I'm like, what? Paul McCartney knows who I am? And I just couldn't believe it.